I got this question in the comments a couple of weeks ago. What would an Islanders team 5 years from now look like with prospects filling up spots? What prospects are making the team? Well, I'm not going to go 5 years out. I'm going to go 3 years out. So in 3 years, what does this team look like using Islanders prospects to fill the gaps? I'm going to do this video in two sections. The first section, build a list of names. These are all the players I want to keep for my roster. And then section 2 is what does that roster look like from lines 1 through 4, pairings 1 through 3, goalie, and backup. So first step in doing that is establishing that line in the sand. What year are we building this roster for? And like I said, it's 3 years out. So the 2024-2025 roster or year is what we're building for. And already you know that there are certain players who are already signed to contracts. So we have to deal with that first and foremost. And by contracts, or signed to contracts, I should say, I mean they're signed for the 2024-2025 season and maybe even beyond. So we have to deal with those guys first. And that's Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Casey Cizikas, Ross Johnson, Adam Pelech, Ryan Pulock. I'm not keeping all of those guys. I'm moving 2 out again to create roster spots. I'm moving Brock Nelson and I'm moving Kyle Palmieri. They're gone. Their return, again, I don't care. I don't care what the return is. It's just via Condillos, I need a spot on the roster. Peace out. So as we build our list of names here, we've already got Lee, Pageau, Cizikas, Johnston, Pelech, and Pulock. But as you'll see from this list here, there are players on the roster who aren't signed to contracts up until 24-25 that we'd kind of like to keep around. And that's Matthew Barzal, Oliver Wahlstrom, Kiefer Bellows, Noah Dobson, and Ilya Sorokin. They're all being added to the list. I'm keeping them all for the 24-25 season. Of course, that's not a full list, right? We're looking for up to 23 players to build our roster. That's an active squad. And we're going to have to pull from deeper in the roster, which is the important part. This is the crux of the whole video, right? What players in the Islanders prospect pool do I see coming up within a couple of years? And I've got Simon Holmstrom, Artur Aatu, Reese Newkirk, Robin Salo, Samuel Bolduc, Parker Witherspoon, Grant Hutton, and Jakob Skarek. There are a lot of players coming in. We're going to get to why and where they go. Right now, again, just building a list of names. So they go in. But of course, we're not done there, right? We still have a few gaps to put into the lineup. So I'm pulling William Zufull, Russ Nishikov, and Etul Yukas from the reserve list. These are guys that we have the rights to right now, but aren't signed to NHL contracts. These guys I'm bringing into the NHL club. Now to the second part of the video, building the actual lineup. So we've got our list of players. How am I building this lineup and why do I've got players here or there? Let's start right from the top, line 1, Bellows, Barzal, Wahlstrom. Now remember, this is for the lineup in 2024-2025, so these guys are going to have a couple more years under their belts. I absolutely see them being a top line trio, and I'm sure you do as well. Again, we're only looking inside. We're not thinking of like, well, we can pull this guy at this year. We're not looking at that right now. This is just from within the Islanders system itself, and if you look at the system now, Bellows, Barzal, Wahlstrom are the 3 best. There's no question. Line 2, Anders Lee, Artur Aatu, and Simon Holmstrom. Makes a whole lot of sense. Once we figured out that Artur Aatu wasn't the shell of the player, or wasn't that player that everyone thought he was at the draft, it's clear he's a top 6 center, and I've got him here as a top 6 center. And this is 3 years out, right? So there's time here. Next year, he's going to be in Bridgeport, and then he's got another year to maybe stay in Bridgeport/NHL before here he cements a spot in the NHL. That's plenty of time. Simon Holmstrom, he's probably going to be at the NHL next year or between NHL, AHL type thing. Put him in the top 6 going forward. Yeah, I see that happening. Anders Lee here just completes the line. You got a guy digging down low, creating space, and you got Ratu and Holmstrom feeding off of each other. Done. Line 3, Rustin Ishikov, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, and William Zufull. The only one where I'm like, I don't know about that pick. There might be some contention there is William Zufull. He's the only one. I have no problem putting Rustin Ishikov there at all. I know he's a center, But when it comes to the NHL, I don't see him as a center. I see him as a better winger. He's a really good playmaker. He's basically Zach Parise. He's really basically Zach Parise, honestly. And so I think he can play that role in the third line really well for the Islanders. Maybe bounce up and down from line 2 and 3, depending on Anders Lee. But I can see him playing there. Jean-Gabriel Pageau, third line center, there's no question. William Dufault, though, is a question. Will he be ready for the NHL in 3 years? I'm not sure. I think he might be. I kind of think he might be, depending on who he plays with, specifically at the AHL level, just to give him that boost of confidence. But he's got size, he can skate decently well, and he can fire pucks. There's no question about that. I think with 2 years of AHL experience where he starts putting up points, the Islanders might be ready to kind of like, okay, we're going to bring you in, but we're going to shelter the hell out of you. And I think that's where he fits. On the fourth line, there's no question. Ross Johnston, Casey Zizekas, and Eetu Lukas. Johnston is Matt Martin light, and Eetu Lukas is Kyle Clutterbuck light. It really is. So there's no question here. There's no question, no debate that those are the guys. My extra skater is Reese Newkirk, I mentioned before. Center depth, winger depth, fourth line player, maybe third line player. Yeah, that makes sense. Then we've got defense. I've got Pelech, Dobson, Bolduc, Pollock, Salo, Hutton, and Parker Wotherspoon as the extra. Pelech, Dobson, they've played together before, and consider there's a couple of years here where Dobson should be the number one defender, and a guy like Pelech kind of making sure that the back end is taken care of. Perfect pairing. Then you've got Bolduc, Pollock. Bolduc is going to be the safer hands here, I think. And I know he's not had a great year here, but I think he's going to bounce back, specifically in a couple of years from now, where he can play in the top 4. And then you've got Ryan Pollock taking the more offensive side of things, or you've got them purely as a shutdown pair, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You can use a shutdown pair. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. Pair number 3, Robin Salo. He's going to be at the NHL full-time next year. There's no question about that. If you think that's not going to happen, then rethink some things, because he's going to be there. Hutton's just the guy to play safe. He can play in the PK. He's big. He's physical. Plays a Scott Mayfield-esque type of game. He's not as aggressive, let's say, as Scott Mayfield, but that's where Parker Wotherspoon comes in. If you need that size and aggressiveness, Parker Wotherspoon is going to give you that in spades. And then in nets, there's no surprise here. Ilya Sorokin is a starter. Jakub Skarek is the backup. Right? If it was going to be anything else, you'd be surprised. It's not going to be Tristan Lennox, and it's not going to be Henrik Tikkanen. I don't know if Henrik Tikkanen even becomes a pro in North America, and Tristan Lennox might still be going through the ropes at the AHL at this time. So that's why I've got Jakub Skarek there, who could very well be at the NHL level next year as a backup. So that's my team and why. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you would do for your team. Again, just consider Islanders system, Islanders pool. What do you think about William Dufault on the third line in 3 years? Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. And if you have, thank you, thank you, thank you.